Mr. President, thank you so much for doing this. This is a tremendous honor for me.
I'm a big fan, so
well,
just so you understand
thank you.
it.
Well, I'm glad because I've got an issue with you, and and when you gave me this opportunity, first of all, thank you for coming on the Gutfeld Show. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
It's a good show.
And I actually owe you an apology before we start. I've been very critical about you, how you fight all through the campaigns. I voted for you because I like policy. Right. I didn't know you as a man. And I think when you don't understand what a man fights for, you can get lost, especially with all the noise we're seeing from fake news, et cetera, who created these pictures from you.
There is noise.
So Gutfeld Show's over. Cameras are off. We go backstage, and I expected you to be like every politician or anybody I've ever celebrity I've bodyguarded for, and you met my family, and you talked to my daughter. Mm-hmm. My daughter is 10 years old. Her name is Georgie. You guys talked for 20 minutes. If nobody knew, you could have been her grandfather. And you were talking about her horses and her dreams. And I was sitting there and I was like, I have been so wrong about this man because I never understood why you fight the way you fight. You're a family man.
Yeah, I am. Well, I am.
You're a father.
And your daughter's a gorgeous, really, and your wife, the whole thing. I mean, you have got some setup, I'll tell you. But your family's great and you're great and you've really done something and you've captured a certain spirit. You know, a friend of mine who's very smart, he's also a very big guy. He said, because I'm big and strong, people think I'm not the smartest guy.
Oh, I know.
Okay? You are a really smart guy. And I see it, and I've watched it, and I like the show. And we have the privilege of having had the highest rating in the history of the show when I did it a couple of weeks ago. That was his highest
of all
rating.
time.
Of all time, yeah.
We beat network television.
You beat everybody.
And they were up 35 million homes.
Right. Yes.
And it was a landslide.
Yep.
Now, you're putting it on me. I'm throwing it back to you, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
Why do we not hear more about Donald Trump, the father, the grandfather, and I did a deep dive. There are some things you have done that when they say those horrible things like he's Hitler, he's a racist, did they not forget in 1991 what you did with Nelson Mandela? Yeah. Would you care to share that? Because I would love to hear that.
I never talk about it.
No, you do not. And I know why, because you're a man.
Yeah. I mean, I just have great relationships with a lot of people. People say that, a little bit like you do. I don't think it's a narrative the press likes. Maybe it's not even a narrative that I should have. We have to protect our country, and maybe we should let the other side. I don't even call them the enemy. I think we have more of an enemy from within than we do from outside. If you have a smart president, they talk about China and Russia and everything else. If you have a smart president, they're not going to be the problem. We have a bigger problem from within, and they hate it. I noticed today they were saying, he said the enemy from within. Of course, it's Adam Schiff. These are bad people. These are sick people and bad people, and it's true. But I think it's a narrative that they don't like, frankly. I think the fake news, a term I think I came up with. I'm very proud.
Oh, you did. You coined it.
It's not
you
tough.
Should probably trademark it, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, I should trade.
I'm not going to give you business tips.
But it's funny because it's a great term, but it's actually not strong enough because it's beyond fake. It's really bad.
Nelson Mandela and 80 of his constituents were trying to come to the United States.
Yeah.
The United States government wasn't helping him. No one was helping him. You chartered a 727 plane for their entire trip.
Yeah.
How is somebody, and it's crazy because you can talk about anything, and why is it hard for you to talk about the things you've done? It runs in your family. Your father helped build a synagogue. I mean, why do we not know those things?
It's something that I've never... I love doing it. I don't need praise for it. I don't. We all like a certain level of praise, but I've never. I just like helping people.
Masculinity is under attack from all sides, not just by modern ideologies, but also by a culture that seeks to redefine the fundamental values of our society. What were once seen as essential traits, strength, leadership, and bravery, are now condemned as oppressive. We are living in a time where the meaning of being a man is being discredited, with each attack eroding the foundation upon which generations have been built. But we cannot and must not allow these efforts to succeed. It is crucial to understand that this struggle goes far beyond mere words or labels. It is a calculated assault on the very nature of what it means to be a man. The aim is to turn virtues into flaws and weaken our capacity for leadership under the guise of so-called social justice. This is not just a critique, it is an effort to dismantle the foundations that have supported our families, our communities, and our civilization. We cannot let the values that define us be drowned out by these ideological narratives. At this critical moment, we must raise our voices and reclaim our position. Being a man is not something that should change to satisfy current demands. On the contrary, we must stand even firmer in defending what makes us who we are. This is not about retreating, but about moving forward with greater strength, with greater determination. It is time to defend masculinity with pride, to remind the world that these values are not a flaw, but our greatest virtue.
I help a lot of people, and I enjoy doing it, and I never talk about it. It's nice that you bring it up. I also think it's not a narrative that the press likes talking about, for me.
But I think it would help a lot of the American people who have been misled, I myself included. Now, listen, I'm voting for you now because of the man you are, not just because of the policies, because not every American will get the opportunity that I had to saw who you were backstage. And that's why I have this list. I mean, I have testimonials. We can't go through all of them because
I want to see them.
Now, this was, I had to dig deep.
I like that.
You donated $100,000 to raise dogs. You're not even a dog guy. Yeah. Explain that.
Well, that's Lara. So I have the wife of Eric, and she's a terrific person. You know, she's actually now a very big and important person in getting elected in the Republican Party. She comes from North Carolina. She loves the dogs, and I did that in her honor, actually. And, you know, if you listen to her, boy, dogs are treated very badly. They're, you know, some evil people having to do even with dogs. So I did that for my daughter-in-law, more so than me. I don't know that much about dogs, but I want to take care of them. And I had an opportunity. You know, as president, you can do a lot of things. I did a lot. The size of the kennels, the size of the cage. You know, there's like cages that they're in. And it's terrible. It's like you have no room, no nothing. And she came in with a whole group of people. These are people that really fight hard for dogs. I mean, you have people that fight. And she's a good person, so I did it for her.
I have hundreds of employees who have said things like, you've paid medical bills, you paid mortgages, rents, you've helped get family members. There's one story in here where a brother came in with a business plan, nobody would hear him. You gave him 10 minutes, you shook his hand, and you cut him a check. Yeah. Why is it so hard for you and even your team? I'm a little upset. These are things that I think the American people need to know. And I get it, you're humble because you're a father first and a grandfather. And that's something, again, one thing we need in this country is we need a father figure again. We need husbands and boyfriends and young men we need to see that fathers are capable of great things because we've dealt with it, especially in the last 3.5 years, a complete dismemberment of what it is to be a man. We're under attack for everything.
We are. Well, actually, manhood is under attack. Yeah. I see things that are so beautiful, and the next day I see they're knocking the hell out of somebody for doing something that a day before I said, what a wonderful thing. No, we have to get back a little bit more. You know, the other thing under attack is religion. Religion was like the glue that kept this country together, and so many people are mocking it now. They mock it, and it just kept our country together. But it's absolutely under attack, and under attack by this administration. And you look at Kamala, she's worse than Biden. Biden he's out of it, okay?
Oh, yeah.
But she's actually not as smart as Biden. Biden was smarter than her. I think to this day he is. And I don't think the country can take a chance on having her. I think it's a tremendous, I don't even think it's a chance.
Well, let me ask you,
I think it would be a disaster.
Let me ask you the question that was posed to her last night that she refused to answer. You debated Biden the first time, and you debated him the second time. How much of a difference did you notice from the two?
So, are you talking about her and him, or are you talking about just him?
This is interviews about you.
Well, he was different. I think he had a really bad night. I don't think
cognitively.
I don't know. He had a really bad the second time.
Yeah.
I think he had a really bad time of it. So I debated him before, and he was okay. Look, I hit him hard. I asked him about $3.5 million. Remember when Chris Wallace was protecting him? Chris Wallace is not doing so well. Chris Wallace is not Mike. But I asked him about the 3.5 given to him by the mayor of Moscow's wife. I said, how do you justify this? And then I always have 2 or 3 people to debate. The last time I had David Muir.
I call them interventions.
Oh, they're terrible. Yeah. Well, David Muir, I said, crime is through the roof. It's way up. And he said, no, it's not. It's way down. The FBI said so. Well, the FBI didn't include a lot of places.
Funny how that is.
Yeah. The next day, you remember they announced that crime is up like 45%. So I was right. But I haven't gotten an apology from David Muir, but I don't watch him anymore. I haven't gotten an apology. No, I think Biden, look, the debate he had was not great. But I think that he's a step above her, actually.
Speaking of apologies, the brave men and women on the border, especially the horse division, that their lives were put in shambles. One of the things I have on my policy list was that would you consider giving them a day at the White House, a moment to be recognized?
Are we talking what they were saying about the whips and everything else, which didn't exist?
Not just them, but their families. When the President of the United States comes out and condemns them.
You do it. You set it up. We win, I'm there, because that's it. We have to win. If we don't win, we're not going to have a country. You're right. They were brutalized. You know, it's interesting. These people are not smart, but they're vicious. They're very vicious. And you see it. It's like fascist. It's like Marxist. I don't know what the hell it is. But the level, look at me, the weaponization of the Justice Department. Nobody's ever seen anything like it.
America, again, this is not hyperbole. This is a guy, I don't fly private jets. I fly every airport I go to all over the country. 4 years ago.
Are you able to use like one seat? Because you are
first class. First class, of course.
One
seat. Yeah, one seat. Yeah.
Well, that means you have to stay wealthy.
Well,
right?
or keep billing Fox. One or the other.
That's even better.
But yeah,
I like that even better.
Outsource the bill. But again, it when I think about the verbiage and the things that are said about you, even after we don't even know how many assassination attempts there has been, but we know too. One of the things that when you in that moment.
Masculinity is being subjected to a campaign of discreditation that seeks to destroy its essence, and the most alarming part is that this attack is not accidental but premeditated. For centuries, male strength and leadership have been the cornerstones that hold our families and societies together. Today, they are trying to make us believe that these values are toxic, when in reality, they are fundamental to facing the challenges of the modern world. We cannot allow these principles to be destroyed under the guise of a progress that weakens our identity. Progressivism has aimed to redefine masculinity, pushing us to fit into a mold that strips away strength, courage, and boldness. This attempt to reshape what it means to be a man is nothing more than a strategy to make men feel guilty for who they truly are: protectors, leaders, and defenders. The culture of political correctness wants to turn strength into weakness, leadership into submission, and boldness into conformity. This is not progress. It is a regression that seeks to fracture the very structure of our society. Being a man today means being in the crosshairs of an ideological attack that tries to impose a distorted vision of who we are. True masculinity is not toxic. On the contrary, it is the virtue that has driven the building of great civilizations. When it comes to protecting our families, leading with decisiveness, or facing chaos, male strength is indispensable. Stripping us of these virtues would only leave us more vulnerable in a world that demands firmness and resolve. We must raise our voices with strength and determination. We are not just fighting to defend an image or a role, we are defending the very essence of our identity. If we allow these values to be erased, we face an uncertain future where confusion replaces clarity and weakness takes the place of strength. This is a decisive moment in cultural history, and we cannot let what is rightfully ours be taken away. Resistance is key. We must not give an inch in this cultural battle. Masculinity has been, is, and will always be a powerful virtue. It is time to remember who we are and why these values have been essential to our survival as a society. Male strength, leadership, and courage must not only be defended but exalted as the legacy passed down by previous generations, and one we must protect for the future.
When you stood up and you yelled, fight, 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 again, that's where I'm seeing the father. It wasn't about you. It was letting your family know you're okay and you're more concerned about the people. But yet, I'm still waiting for the interview to talk to you about that. Why are we not sharing in that? That was a tremendous moment. I was in Oklahoma doing a stand-up show, and I thought I was going to cancel because I wasn't leaving the TV screen because I'm watching an assassination attempt on our president.
People were watching that. There's no question about it. That was a big deal.
But I went anyways to the show thinking no one would come, and they came. And instead of doing a stand-up show, I did a Q&A. Talk about it, and there was a lot of veterans that were there that were talking about how much they support you and they believe in you, and that they were generally concerned. But they said, they had no fear because when they saw you stand, you stood for them. Because veterans, our police,
Right.
our first responders have been, forget the moral outrage of how they're treated.
They've been
the
brutalized.
funding, stuff like that.
Sure.
And you have been doing some stuff with taxes.
Yeah.
Now, I did a little bit, and I'm not a mathematician,
Right.
but I did a little bit of checking. One of the things, one of the policies, like, would you consider thinking about for our veterans, for those who serve, for those of our police department, to where their taxation is the fact that they're giving their bodies to this country instead of having to pay taxes? None of these cities want to give them raises, so at least let them keep their money.
You know, I've never heard that before, and it's like a very interesting thing. It's the kind of thing you would think of, right? Because they have been treated so terribly.
It's going to take more than a hug. We need to, and here's the deal. If you're looking at serving in this country, in the military, or a police officer, or a firefighter, and you're young and you're coming up, and you don't have to pay taxes because you're paying, it's almost an incentive to where we can get people interested.
And other countries do that, as you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other countries do that.
Of course they do.
In spades. Yeah, it's something I would think about. You know, it's something that nobody ever brought up. I've never heard it. It's interesting you're bringing it up. You're like my tax person there. But, yeah, I mean, something has to be done.
Yes.
And we have
And
to
I
attract
think
people.
you're the president to do it.
Well, the military is now not attracting people. They're not going in. And I think it's because they don't respect the people at the top, the commanding officer. I mean, they're not, the commander-in-chief is not, I think you have to have, we were not having this problem 5 years ago. We have problems in the military right now. You know, the one thing I will say, though, and I tell the story, we really did a great job with our military. I rebuilt the military, right? And we got rid of ISIS. And I got to know them during this very short period of time. It was supposed to take 5 years. We did it in about a month. Remember that?
Yep.
And I got to know the real military, not these guys that are woke and that are like, you know, like, should I mention them? Yeah.
I think we get it with the woke.
No.
Yeah.
With
I'm knowing, trust
with
me.
Millie and his statements.
Yes.
And I mean, look, I guess Mattis is a nice guy, but we have people in there that are much different. Not the people on television, the people that got rid of ISIS quickly. I was told it was going to take 5 years, and we did it in a matter of literal weeks. And I said, this is a great military. And by the way, they're not woke. You could never make them woke. These are guys, you will never, ever make them woke. But they did a great job. Great job.
Now, you brought us Space Force.
Yeah.
And now partnering with Elon Musk and stuff, I think we're going to have some great things. But one of the things I've been very critical of this administration is that I think we need to have a school force. We need to make our schools hard targets. And there's again, looking for employment for our servicemen when they come out. Because I feel like what's happening in our schools isn't a police thing, it's a military thing. Because they are trained to look for these signs and stuff. If we had military, not necessarily military, but they'll be coming over if we use social workers, military police, and we each.
So let me ask you this. So what about teachers that are in the military and they're teachers, they leave the military, they become history teachers, they become math teachers, and they're in the room and they get to know the students and they know how to use a gun. You can't have people that don't have any idea about what to do with guns. But people that were in the military, that are in the classroom, and they have access to guns, whether it's on them or in a little safe or something. You know, the problem is if it's in a safe, it takes a long time to get it, right? So, you know. But sometimes I think, and I've heard that and I've thought about it a lot, and in some ways I like that more than just having police standing someplace in the building. Do you like that idea? It would be a small percentage of the teachers, like 5%, but that would be much more than you would ever have with...
Anything is better than nothing. Our banks are safer than our schools, and our greatest investment are our kids.
Yeah.
So I have an issue with that. And here's the deal. I've learned a lot about this administration trying to get things done and talking to people. I speak with a lot of mayors and a lot of my travels and stuff. And this administration was supposed to be all about the environment and the Green New Deal and all that crap. But it's amazing. So
You notice how that stopped? I'm in the middle of a campaign, hopefully the end of a campaign, and it's going to be successful. But we're in a campaign. Nobody ever talks about the environment. They don't talk about it. They want clean air. They want clean water. This Green New scam is the worst thing that's ever happened. They're destroying the windmills all over the place. You fly over these gorgeous areas. You have windmills going all over.
You're not going to have any birds around, and the ones in the ocean are messing up the whales. Windmills were great back when we all had buggy whips,
Yeah,
carts.
yeah, they were much nicer then.
Yeah.
Actually, they were actually much nicer. No, when you think of what they've done, though, with all of the money that they spent, trillions and trillions of dollars, China does nothing, by the way, just so you understand. You
No,
know,
China, India, absolutely
no,
not.
they don't do anything. And by the way, that flies right over our country. You do understand.
Yeah.
Those winds, 4.5 days, it's over. So here we are. It costs us twice to make a product, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. And we're trying to keep everything nice and clean. But the wind's flying in from China, India, and every place else. It's crazy, isn't it?
Well, one of the things, the EP, okay, one of the things that I was, because living in Louisiana, we have a horrible problem with sewage and
Yeah.
water overfills and things like that. And the budget for these mayors have this budget for the sewage, but yet nothing's ever done, right? These engineers and their plans are based off how much money they get opposed to solving the problem.
Right.
So Mike Rowe told me about a company.
Good guy.
Oh yeah, Mike. Let me put my glasses on. I want to get this right. It was,
I can't believe you wear glasses, huh?
50. Sewage Century, right? Brad Colbert, I believe you knew his father
Yep.
owned the Texas Rangers.
Yep.
So they came up with this little tiny invention. It's like this, like a mushroom, a little ball in it. And when you put it in the manholes, it separates the gas, and the little ball comes up, and the water can't come out the manhole. So the sewage water doesn't spill into overflows. It costs $0.25. You don't need a committee for it. You just put them in. I think one city was like $250,000 opposed to the $20 million they spent, and it pays for itself in a year, and it's done. So here I am in Louisiana, go, oh, this is great, and we have to form a committee.
Masculinity is under constant attack, and what's most concerning is that men are expected to give in to this cultural pressure, but we cannot allow that to happen. Strength, leadership, and courage are not flaws. They are the qualities that have defined us and enabled us to face the most difficult challenges. Masculinity is a pillar of society, and its importance cannot be underestimated. To give in to the demands of a culture that seeks to weaken what it means to be a man would be a betrayal of our very nature. We cannot allow current narratives to turn masculinity into something we should be ashamed of. Being a man means facing whatever comes with courage, not retreating in the face of attacks, and upholding our values with pride. True strength is not conformity, it is resistance. Resisting the cultural pressure to mold ourselves into something weaker is an act of bravery in itself. There is no honor in abandoning what we know to be right, nor in allowing our essence to be distorted to satisfy an agenda that strips us of what makes us strong. This is the time to reaffirm who we are. Masculinity is not a toxic construct. It is a virtue that should be celebrated and defended. As men, we must be the protectors, the leaders, and the defenders of our families and our society.
We have to do this.
Well, you have a great new governor in Louisiana. I bet you'd take a look at it because your new governor, a Republican,
Yeah.
is he was the attorney general. Now he's a governor. So if you give me that, I'll send it to him. Okay.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Sounds good, right?
Yeah,
Why is that something? I mean, it's a big problem, and
it's a problem everywhere. Our drinking water, the fluoride in it, we're seeing, and then now we're seeing sewage, and it's a lot of autoimmune diseases are happening with our kids.
If you give me, I will send it, and I'll bet you get action.
I moved. Well, one, because my daughter's an equestrian now, and I had to move to New Jersey. But we eventually had to move because not only that, what we're seeing with the hurricane storms, the insurance companies jacking it up. Now, I'm blessed to make a good living, but I'm not paying $300,000 a year in house taxes. So I made
insurance is one of the biggest increases, and it's happened in the last 4 years. People are going crazy with the insurance costs. And I say, what about self-insurance? Sometimes people are better off with self-insurance. They can't afford the insurance. And then the problem is when you need the insurance, they don't want to pay. And they negotiate, right? They say, we're not going to pay you. And you end up getting 5 cents on the dollar.
Exactly,
it's a problem. Yeah. It's a real problem.
And, I know you have a million things to do, but father to grandfather, I would like to ask you a question.
Go ahead.
I made a mistake with my child, my daughter, when she wanted to get an equestrian. I was supposed to tell her she was allergic. I didn't do that to horses because it's expensive. It's unbelievable. And you guys talked a lot about it. Now, my daughter's now going to Wilmington, Florida to compete. Okay. And I had to move the horses down there.
So she's very good, right?
Very good. Like I'm in.
That's good.
I'm in.
Good.
Yeah, after this is over, I'll be sweeping this place up.
Good.
Every extra dollar.
Good.
But your granddaughters and your family, did they ride horses as well? Did they do equestrian?
Not too much. they like it. They do it maybe a little bit, but not like your daughter. No, your daughter's supposed to be very, like you, a talented athlete, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You can see it. Now I've heard that.
Yeah, my son plays baseball at the travel league. So I'm the GM. The way I look at it, if you're the first one in, last one to leave, daddy invests. Right. I just forgot to put a salary cap.
The
little cheaper.
A little bit less.
It never ends, though. It
No,
never
but
ends.
it never ends.
No.
Okay.
But we're going to be in Wilmington. How far is Wilmington from Mar-a-Lago?
So Wilmington is about 20 minutes away.
Can I get a group rate?
Yes, you're going to come over. We're going to have dinner with your daughter and your family, your wife. We're going to come over and have dinner. But do you mean Wellington or Wilmington?
Wilmington. I say it wrong because I just paid to have the horses moved, so it's a little traumatic for me.
It could be, but it's either one's about 20, 25 minutes to come over. I'd love to have you on.
Thank you, sir.
No, but you're a terrific guy. Look, it's that show has caught on, and the whole group is great. But I've always watched you. You always were defending me, and a lot of people don't defend me, and I like people that defend me because I think I'm doing the right thing. And we have a lot of bad people in our country, you know. We have a lot of people that you almost say they must hate our country because what they do is so bad for our country. But I just have always...
Well, I'm not allergic to straight talk.
Yeah.
And every man of consequence that I learned from in my life never bullshitted nothing with me. Mm-hmm. Whether it was Dusty Rhodes, whether it was my football coaches, whether it was anybody I was with, they always told it to me straight, even when I didn't like what I wanted to hear. Because I always believed everybody can handle bad news and good news, but no news and bullshit. Don't piss down my back, as my grandmother used to say, and tell me it's rain. And that's one thing that you have never done. You always, if you don't want to hear, because the American people can accept bad news. Because when we know how bad it is, then we can look forward to getting it better. And that's, in this age of endorsements, that's why you have my endorsement, Mr. President. You can take that, a cup of coffee, and do whatever you want with it.
It means a lot to me. It does. But, I think this is going to be the most important election in the history of our country.
I agree.
Because our country is going bad. You know, I hate to say, I wouldn't do this with just politics. Our country is going bad. The things we do. I mean, men playing in women's sports, okay?
Absolutely not.
It's crazy. And let's not say it's the most important, but it's just crazy, the whole concept. Having no borders, having elections where you're not allowed to ask somebody whether or not they happen to live in the country. Just anybody can walk in.
Yeah.
It's really wacky, and we're going to get it changed, Cyrus.
I believe that. Well, now, I have to ask this because you love sports as almost as I do, especially boxing.
Yeah, I do. I love.
And
I love it.
Do you miss not being able to do all that stuff? Because like WrestleMania 4 and 5, part of my childhood, inspired me to end up becoming a wrestler. I thank you on Gutfeld for that.
I did that. I'm in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Yes, you are.
And Dana is a good friend of mine with UFC. What a job he's done, right? Dana White is incredible. He's like an incredible guy. And, I was always involved. And I remember in those days, Hulk is a great guy, you have to say. Yeah. He was great. Right?
And when he ripped his shirt off, and now listen, I was Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff guy, but I got it. But I think that was a great moment. And so you're very quick, and you can talk trash with the best of them. Yeah. Who was the biggest influence? Was it Don King or Muhammad Ali? Because your style is like ours.
What we are witnessing is a calculated attack on the very essence of what it means to be a man. They want us to believe that the qualities that have defined us for generations, strength, leadership, and courage, are now flaws that must be eliminated. But that narrative is dangerous and destructive. Masculinity is not something that needs to be reformed or redefined to fit a modern vision. It is an essential virtue that has always guided societies toward order and prosperity. We cannot allow this cultural pressure to weaken who we are. Being a man means facing chaos, leading decisively, and protecting those who depend on us. It's not simply about traditional roles, it's a duty we have taken on throughout history, one we must not abandon. If we allow these forces to strip us of our identity, we will lose far more than a simple ideological battle. We will lose our ability to be the guardians and protectors our families and communities need. It is imperative that we resist this narrative. True strength lies not in conforming to the dictates of today's society, but in firmly reaffirming our principles. Masculinity is not something to be suppressed. On the contrary, it should be celebrated and protected. It is the pillar upon which stability and progress are built. The men who defend these values are not outdated. They are indispensable for the future of our societies. This is a call to action, Now more than ever, it is crucial for men to rise with pride and defend what it truly means to be a man. Strength, leadership, and the ability to protect are virtues that cannot be ignored or weakened. Without them, what remains is a void that will lead to chaos. We must be the shields for our families and communities, and that can only be achieved by standing firm in who we are.
When you comes to talking trash, and I know you hung out with those guys. I know a lot of. I did the search. I know that you have been.
No,
it's hilarious after reading and the stuff I've saw, and I just saw a little bit. It's hard to find, but you have been a regular guy with. You never cared what color somebody was or who they slept with. All you cared was the content of their character and if they could do the damn job or not.
They were both friends of mine. Now, Don King is still alive, you know. He's 92 years old.
Yeah.
He lives in Florida. He's a great guy. He endorsed me, very strongly endorsed. He said, you got to vote for Trump. And I probably spoke to him a week ago, maybe. And he was great. Very different guys. But there's nobody. Don King, each incredible. Don King, nobody like that. And Muhammad Ali, nobody like that. These were two unique people. You know, Don King was a tough cookie, too. He beat the hell out of people. Unfortunately, it cost him a lot.
Yeah.
But he was a tough guy. But he's a big supporter. Muhammad Ali was actually a friend of mine. I knew him pretty well. He was amazing, actually. He was amazing. And, you know, you look at some of the fights. Sonny Liston had no chance of being beaten, and he got beaten badly twice.
Oh, yeah.
And then when you look at George Foreman, another really good guy, but he just had George Foreman.
George Foreman at that time was bulletproof.
Bulletproof. Remember when he fought three guys and knocked him out?
I was a little young, but I remember the
He fought three guys one night, and but the third guy, and Muhammad Ali was watching. The third guy, he was getting a little tired, you know.
What's your favorite? What was your favorite all-time big prize fight that you were at?
Well, believe it or not, I was at Madison Square Garden. I think it was Ali Frazier won.
Oh, so you were there. That's, in my opinion, the most historic fight of all time.
So I was there as a young guy, very young guy, and I remember there were many heart attacks. Can you believe it? They had heart attacks. Men, I heard, I don't even want to say it because it sounds ridiculous, but there were a lot of heart attacks. It was the craziest evening. Two undefeated, legendary fighters. They were both undefeated, and it was brutal. And that was the days of the 15-round fight, you know.
Yeah, when they had to fight.
And I can't say it because, you know, look, I'm not in the ring, but those fights were better. You know, those extra 3 rounds.
Well, that was the championship rounds. They say 11 and 12.
They were the championships rounds.
Now, how are you dressed for that? Because it was the 70s and it was wild, crazy. Now, you've always been kind of never been a big fan, but was it just the suit or did you have the jacket?
I think it was just pretty normal. But I was a very young guy.
Yeah.
But in terms of an event, I think that was maybe the greatest event.
That was the first Super Bowl.
But now you have Dana White, who's done such a great job with the UFC. I don't know, the boxing, unless something happens, the boxing doesn't look the same as it did.
Fighting over in Saudi Arabia is not the same thing, with all due respect.
No, but it's he's done a great job with the UFC. Would you ever do the UFC stuff?
Watch it? Yeah.
No, from years ago.
Oh, years ago? Yeah, if it was available.
Can you take the shots to the face? Because a lot of
I'm not going to hit in the face. I had one shot. Most of my fights were over in about 5 or 6 seconds.
Well, that's good.
The weird thing would be fighting one guy. Usually I had to fight 3 or 4 in clubs. So, but those days are behind me.
I asked Dan Gable, so he was probably the greatest wrestler of that type, right? And he was fantastic. I said, would you have done well in the UFC if they had it then? And he said, no, because I would never let people hit me in the face. You know, it's a whole different culture, frankly.
Well,
when you can get in the face.
Wrestling background, I think, is
a lot of.
I think Kurt Angle would have been tremendous had he not broke his neck and stuff. But I know you. I could keep you here forever, and I'm getting the circles and the doo-wops. And Mr. President, thank you.
I would only do this one for you. You don't know what's going on. I'm the keynote speaker at the biggest dinner in New York, probably of the year. And I had a choice. I was going to walk in and say, could you do me a favor? Could I do this interview tomorrow or maybe next week? And I said, I'm not doing it to Tyrus. And I got people over at the big hotel, and that room is packed, and everybody's wearing white tie, not black tie. I don't like wearing white tie, but it's white tie. And it's waiting for me. And I said, you know what? I got to do it with Tyrus because I respect him. And Tyrus has always, I tell you people, he's always stuck up for me when maybe it wasn't the thing to do, and he's always there. So I'm here for you, and I'm a little late, but that's okay.
I would have waited till tomorrow, sir, but I'm glad you did it today.
Thank you, man.
Special
guy.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Best of luck, Beaton.
Take care of yourself.
Masculinity is being attacked with an aggression that aims to strip it of its true value. What was once the symbol of strength, leadership, and responsibility is now scorned by a culture that seeks to redesign the role of men in society. But it's crucial to understand that these values are not mere concepts. They are the pillars upon which civilizations have been built. Defending masculinity is not a choice, it's a necessity to preserve the balance and order that is so desperately needed. Today, more than ever, it is imperative that men do not back down in the face of this cultural attack. Masculinity is not toxic, it is in fact the source of strength and courage that has allowed us to protect our families and lead with determination. To give in to this social pressure would be the equivalent of surrendering to those who seek to weaken the moral fabric of our society. We cannot let a distorted narrative make us ashamed of who we are. Being a man is not just about traditional roles, it's an identity that has been the foundation of protection and leadership throughout history. This assault is not just about redefining masculinity, it is also about dismantling the values that make us strong, but those who attack these principles do not understand the weight and importance that masculinity holds for the well-being and future of society. True strength is not measured in conformity, but in resistance to the currents that seek to erode what truly matters. Defending masculinity is far more than a mere cultural struggle. It is about defending our ability to be leaders, protectors, and responsible individuals. If we do not resist, we will lose not only our identity, but also our capacity to protect future generations. This is the moment to proudly reaffirm what it means to be a man. Male strength is essential to maintaining order and stability in our communities. This is not the time to falter or give in to those who want to weaken us. Being men means accepting the responsibility that comes with being leaders and guardians, something that cannot be erased by a narrative that despises our essence. While the attack is strong, so is our ability to resist. Men must remember that strength is not a flaw, it is a virtue that must be protected at all costs. We must stand firm because without our presence, society would weaken and future generations would suffer the consequences. If you share these values and believe in the importance of preserving true masculinity, I invite you to subscribe. Together we can defend what truly matters and ensure that our voices are heard in the midst of this cultural battle. Stay strong, stay firm, and never back down.